makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Alison Morano, a technology and policy expert, entrepreneur, and advocate. She is also the founder of the Metaverse Chamber of Commerce. It's a pleasure to have you with me today, Alison, and I look forward to talking to you. So can you tell us about your journey in the technology industry and how you become involved in technologies like a virtual reality and the metaverse?
So, I kind of fell into technology a long time ago. I was in school for communications. I left school to become a stock trader. And I always say that's where it really started, and I didn't realize it because I went into the stock market and was trading on the floor at a time when technology was just beginning to come into the trading room. And so they were bringing these new computers, something called Instinet and something called SOS, and all these ways of digitally bringing up pricing and making trades. And somehow I became the person that knew how to operate all of it. And it hadn't even still occurred to me that that's because I had maybe an affinity for technology. It was just something that I knew how to do. And I just became the expert in the room at being able to do these trades really fast and working it, and right down to the phone system. And so eventually I left the market and I went into a sales business with my family. And what I brought with me were computers, which were also new. This goes back to the 80s, 90s. And I was starting to upgrade our computers. Again, still not realizing that it was anything special. I just was able to take the computer apart and put it back together and upgrade it when needed. And then online came along and you started getting on AOL and CompuServe and modems. I did that. I was able to surf through. At the time, it wasn't surfing, but I would find databases. I would find sales clients. I started my own types of businesses where I was taking friends' catalog businesses and finding a whole new world of people we could get to because I was able to go and find data and databases. And so eventually it clicked and I was like, I'm good at the technology part of it. And I, as you'll see as I go along, it's always that I'm at the beginning, so I never realize where anything's going. So when you could get online, I just started doing that, and I started converting businesses to these little websites. Remember, we're talking back in the AOL days, you could barely send or text, but I was starting to design and I was starting to code and I was starting to teach people how to do it, because always in my mind has been, if you don't teach everybody how to do the new thing, it's not going to stay. And I wanted it to stay. So I taught as many people as possible. I even taught adult learning classes about using the web, using the internet and the web. And then it kept going and I started doing websites and those just kept moving. So all these years later, I continue to do technology and websites. Along the way, I got into a few different businesses. I've always been entrepreneurial and I've just started different things. I did write a couple of articles and ebooks. Back then it wasn't an ebook, but it was manuals about how to use it. And I also started working with women who were very much on the forefront of technology because it was the great leveling field. Technology was great for women. We're still fighting the battle. But technology is great for women because it makes it an equal playing field. One, because it's so new that everybody can get in on the ground floor and move forward. And the other is that it's kind of anonymous, where people who are looking at your work and using your work or hiring you, they don't necessarily know the genders of anybody that they're talking to, especially back in the early days. So a lot of women were getting online and learning from each other. And I really, really like that. And so we started, my friend Elisa Sherman, who started a group for women in technology. And I was in New York at the time, and, we were on TV and we were in the papers and we were talking about it. And we just kept going. And then we went our separate ways because we started doing our own projects. And I still talk to her, and she's in this new thing with me too. She's come into the virtual reality part and learned how to use that because she knows. And eventually I moved to Florida. I got into more of a political consulting field again, but brought the technology that I saw to campaigning. And I could see the tech was, again, just starting to come into campaigning. And I was bringing it along and bringing it. And then one day, the next thing showed up. And I was literally in the last 3-4 years, you just start sitting around and seeing what's next. And I just saw it immediately. It was when Meta, Facebook at the time, and Meta introduced a headset. And I said, there's got to be a ton of things in there. There just has to be. And I called people and I said, have you looked into this virtual reality and this headset? Do you know, I said, I'll bet that my first thought was, I'm going to get on my stationary bike and have something to do because I'm not great at that, but I wanted to do it. And we were just coming in, like I said, it was 2019, 2020, just coming into the pandemic. And people were home all the time. And I just started using it for different things. And it turns out it's great for exercise and great for fitness, but they didn't have a lot of apps. So I was just learning other apps while I was using it for what I wanted to use it for. And then I just said, one day I talked to a business partner of mine and I said, this is the next thing. This is it. And that's how I got into it. And I've upgraded with each headset. There are other headsets out there that are coming along. Apple's about to come out with something really big. I'll get to that too. When it comes out. But, I said to someone else, I'm always at the bottom of the hill, right? Always just waiting for the tech to come and meet me, which has taken a very long time. And that's how I got into it. And now I'm designing and creating, and I've set up several storefronts and metaverses, primarily in virtual reality. Metaverse can mean a lot of things. I am focused on the virtual reality part of it, the 3D immersive 360 environment, where you can go in and just kind of lose yourself and also have a great time and do what you need to do in that type of an environment. And that's how I got here.
I feel like technology is too slow for you. We need to move faster.
Always at the bottom of the hill. I mean, it happens in other things too, and I try to innovate in other areas just to bring things along. But yeah,
I can't imagine you actually took this old big computer apart and put it back together. I remember when I was young, they were huge.
In a summer vacation when I was still in college before none of it had clicked that this is what I was good at. I just happened to my dad needed help in his office and they were digitizing their files. They had thousands of customer files. And he said, we just got this giant mainframe computer. We need all these files just to be entered. And to them it was data entry. It was like typing, which is, as a woman, was probably why they thought of me, which is quite honestly my thought, what I think happened. And I just took it all and I just started writing programs, but I digitized their entire office in a summer. But again, that's not what anybody thought I was doing. I was typing. And
your data entry.
Yeah, that's what it was. Into a computer, though. And that's all it was. I was a girl for the summer that they hired out of high school or college wherever I was. And I just typed for the summer. But I got all their files in. And that was right when Lotus was coming out. This is a long time ago. And they're in the finance business. So they use these books to figure out interest rates and figure out times of the finance contracts and the leases and whatever they were doing. And they would always go to the book and flip through it. When I first saw Lotus, I created an amortization program. And I said, look, you can use it now.
Oh my goodness.
It was just around the time a calculator came out called The Wizard that did it. Like I wrote it at the same time that The Wizard was being marketed. But I did it, and it still never occurred to me that this was a computer thing or a tech thing for me because we didn't see where it was going at the time.
It's like you've been doing this your entire life without realizing that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You're just employing this.
It's never occurred to me that it was a thing I was good at as a specialty or specialization. It was just something that came along to make the other things I was doing easier and more efficient and more fun. I mean, honestly, it was fun to figure out the problems and how to fix them by using technology.
Exactly. So now, as the founder of the Metaverse Chamber of Commerce, so
Mhm.
now can you tell us a little bit more about the company? What is it about? And then um, how did how do you end up establishing that? Doing
So one of the many hats I've worn over the years has been a lot of work with chambers of commerce. I did it in New York. I did it in Florida. As a business and as a sole proprietor, entrepreneur, whatever I was doing, partnerships. One of the things that you do in order to network was I was always looking for networking groups. It's how I met the woman that I said does this tech, has done this tech over the years with me. That I keep, we're in and out of each other's lives all the time. And we get, and it's not difficult because the technology is there. So I can always find her. She can always find me. But I was always looking for groups, and she ran a group, and I was part of the Long Island Businesswomen's Association. I grew up in Long Island, so I was the youngest vice chair of the Chamber of Commerce up on Great Neck at the time. I was a member of the New York Chamber of Commerce. And so when I came to Florida, again, looked for the chamber, and I joined, and I became chairperson of that chamber for a couple of years. So naturally, when I started going into virtual reality, I was looking for more of a business usage. Like, how can not we adapt our businesses? That's what I'm reading. People are going to eventually, you do business and you network and you meet people and you outreach and you also do the gaming. But to me, it's a networking tool. And so I knew I was going to start some businesses in there, some immersive experiences. I do a play on Alice in Wonderland because I'm Allison. So I do Alison's Wonderland kind of thing, Alison's Place in Wonderland. And, it's an immersive experience. But one of the first things I did when I went into this one app called Multiverse, they have a city called the Infiniverse. And that's really where I was able to create the easiest for me. That was the app. There's Meta Horizon, which is really a great tool. You need some programming and some artistic talent. There's something called Engage. There's something called Villa. There's a lot of them now. I have gravitated towards something primarily right now called the Infiniverse, but I also have spaces in Horizon. I have spaces in Engage. I have spaces in something called Spatial and Villa, because I would like to spread out. It should be a metaverse-wide endeavor. And when I saw that they were selling storefronts, they call them, which are spaces where you can create and place in a hard location your store or your business or your experience, whatever you want to do, they were giving you what is known as real estate. It was really quite affordable. And it was a lot of fun because there are a lot of people in there. There's a lot of people all over the world in there that I talk to all day long. And so I created my store, and it was just natural to me to think all of the people who are owning businesses in here should have an organization that works to create a space for them and promote them and network and market and everybody
I
working.
see where you're going with that.
The most natural organization that I know how to run is a Chamber of Commerce. And so I decided that's what I was going to do to help. This is me. I'm trying to help everybody. Again, the principle is if you don't help everybody succeed, then you're not going to have it to do. It's just a matter of keeping everybody engaged and involved and moving forward because I like it so much that I want everybody to be happy and to succeed in there so that we'll all succeed and it'll stay. It needs to stay around. And I always come at it from that standpoint. So that's where the chamber came from. I've got 30 or 40 members now. We do business expos in there. Part of the membership I offer is every time I do any kind of an exposition or exhibit or business networking group activity, everybody who's a member gets a space. It works like the real world, IRL, in real life. It works the same. I set a date, I set a time. We do other things in between. We'll meet as a group and talk about innovation, talk about what's next, talk about other apps, talk about just the metaverse and technology as a whole. AI is a huge piece of that. Huge, cryptocurrency is a huge piece of it. NFTs are a huge, huge piece of that. And I've educated to whatever degree I can in all of these areas as well, because it's all going to come together to me. And that's really what the chamber is. It's all of us becoming an organization that will promote each other and keep this thing moving forward. And that was the best model I could use.
That's fascinating. I never really thought of it that way. For me, the whole time I'm like, I cannot wait to hear about the metaverse. Chamber of Commerce. Where is it in person? Which state is it in? But the reality is metaverse.
It's the metaverse, yeah. And it can be on any platform. That's what it's designed for. And I have a home for it on the web. It's Metaverse Chamber.io.
Yes.
So there is a place where you can go, because you can't really transact yet in the headsets. That's one limitation we have until the memory and the bandwidth and the capacity of the headsets get better. You can't do a lot of transacting inside. So it all leads back to what we call now the 2D web, which are websites, mobile apps or whatever it is. So when you're in there, we guide you, all the businesses guide you to their 2D locations. There are even a few brick and mortar locations. People have taken there's a thrift store where the woman takes all of her items and puts them inside, and you can tour around in there and walk around. You walk around looking at everything, but you purchase it. You then get a window that takes you to a website where you can purchase it, or you can call her. We use a lot of QR codes. There's a lot of ways around it, which is part of what the build is. Eventually, my ideal metaverse as I can envision it now, it doesn't mean it's not going to change next week when someone comes up with something where you go, I never thought of doing it that way, is you will be able to walk around, you'll be able to touch something, and it will automatically connect to whatever your account is and do the transaction on itself. And then it shows up at your door in real life, right?
That would be cool.
Right. And that's a misnomer that a lot of people think, that when you talk about metaverse and metaverse items, whether they're digital or not, is they think that everybody in the metaverse is creating digital things that can only be used in that metaverse, right? So you're only buying a pair of shoes that are digital for your avatar to wear when you're in the headset. But you're not. You're buying a pair of shoes that will arrive at your door in a box that you can wear outside. You'll be able to walk around. Let's say you go to an event and everybody wants food or something. There'll be kiosks. And I always use the term kiosk. And you'll all be able to order whatever you want, and it'll show up at your door. It's all of this. You can make reservations. I started a metaverse area storefront that's about one of my favorite places in the world, called Fire Island, New York, which I don't get to go to very much from Florida. But I went and created the experience the best I could right now. And you'll be able, there are people, I brought people in there from Sweden and Switzerland and Norway and Prague and Brussels. And they go in and I explain all about Fire Island to them, and I show them music, and we look at pictures and videos, and they can now they now know what it is, and they'll want to go there. It's that kind of a thing. When I was in New York, I had a Fire Island website, and I used to do shares in restaurants and hotels, and people used to do it through the website. And I'm bringing that into virtual reality. Yeah. And it's a much bigger audience.
And you say that like that's what you mentioned before. It's a much bigger audience. So when you say much bigger, how big are we talking about?
Well, right now, I think Meta's sold about 10 million headsets, which is just a drop in the bucket. But the numbers and I don't hold anybody to anything, but I don't talk to any real developers or creators or app developers who don't talk in the terms of billions, and that's not necessarily only virtual reality. It's metaverses in general. I think they just announced that Walmart, I think it was Walmart. I'm sorry if it's the wrong company. Since they opened their metaverse, which is mobile based, but it's a way to interact and be social and wander around the store, with your avatar. Cool. They just surpassed 7 million visitors, and it's different than going to a website because you're using the app. And I went in once or twice to a couple of different mobile metaverses, and they're about experiences as well. You don't just go and shop and look around the shelves. There's activities and there's games and there's things that make it really interesting, and you collect points. And for all intents and purposes, and I don't want to I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but when you think of points and coins and things that people use, that's cryptocurrency to me. That's how we're going to transact. It's just, that's what it is. When I try to explain crypto to, say, my aunt, and I'll show her this, I said, do you play Candy Crush? And she said, yes. I said, well, you get all those coins and then you use them to buy things in Candy Crush. And I said, that is digital currency. It's not crypto. It's digital currency. We do it now. Whenever you order from DoorDash or an Uber or something, and you have a transaction. It's an ACH right now, which is bank to company transaction, but you're using a digital currency, just transacting it back and forth over the internet in a secure encrypted line where you're transacting. They're not necessarily coins. They're an amount of money or amount of currency, fiat, as they call it. And, you don't even realize every day you're getting used to the digital world of finance.
So now let's say that I get coins and points using that. Can I cash it out?
In some companies, you can't necessarily cash them out right now out of the headsets. But they're getting there. And that's where the crypto is going to come in. And that's where the NFTs are going to come in. You need a third party encrypted. So right now, when you do have coins in these different apps, and I'm not talking about the games or anything, that's one thing that's enclosed. But that's why you need the web, like I said, so that you can purchase things inside the headset in the 2D web, because that is a currency that is transacted. That's real money. When you're in the headset and there are coins that are affiliated with games, you can collect them and use them to do something inside. People do transact on the outside. They can trade coins inside and do real money on the outside. You can do that, but it's not easy enough yet. We're not there yet. We're at the bottom of the hill, but it's coming. That's the main thing, is that it's coming, and the NFTs are going to play a pretty big part in that. I know people look at NFTs as artwork that you trade back and forth, that don't seem, they call them non-fungible because they're just digital artwork. They are worth money to somebody when they trade back and forth. That's the value of them. And what's going to happen is they're going to have something called a utility, which if you own that piece of that NFT or that graphic, it's going to have an embedded code in it or an embedded contract that makes it worth something tangible to you that you can then use as a currency or a contract or an agreement or whatever it is that you want back and forth with people. That's the function coming to NFTs. Whether it's called an NFT or whether it looks like an NFT later, I couldn't tell you. Right now, the most noticeable word, familiar word to use is NFT. They will have code built into them that will make it worth something. So you'll have a pretty graphic, but that graphic's going to represent that you own that house, or it's going to represent that you have this contract with this person, or it's going to represent that you have this much money in a vault somewhere.
This is awesome.
That's the digital piece of it. So the two have to come together. The headsets and the transactional ease has to come, and it's getting there. Getting there. Yeah.
So now you also wrote a book about it. So what's the book about? Is it supposed to teach people on how to use this, or?
Yeah, it's really, I wrote a book along the lines of starting the chamber, which is if you have a small business, you should be in virtual reality. The same way I used to say, if you have a business, you should have a website. That's what I used to say to people. There's an article I came across a couple of weeks ago when I was doing some background research on myself that talked about how I was trying to get people to get an email. Could you imagine that I used to have to get people I used to have to convince people to get an email. They didn't have them. They didn't want them. They never thought that email was going to be anything. They had their phones and their phone numbers on the wall that you couldn't walk around with, and they wouldn't get an email address. And it's that, and then I said, let me design a website for you so you can see. And then we'll get that website out there and people will order things off of your website and not have to come in person. And that is what this ebook is. It's not very long. It's called Metaverse Mastery for Small Business. And it's just a way to explain and teach, it teaches. So it's $7. I made it as affordable as possible. And it's just a way for people to understand this is coming, right? And when all of these terms and all of these technology pieces are coming at you, you'll at least, I feel that nobody learns everything the first time you try to explain something to them. But later when they hear it from somebody else or it comes up or they read it, that comes back. That's part of teaching and training. You're going to remember these terms and you're going to understand if somebody comes to you and says, I can build you a metaverse for your business, you're going to have a basis to go back to and understand what they mean by that. And that's what the book's for. And it's an introduction to metaverses. It's an introduction to virtual reality is what I specialize in, and how your small business can benefit from thinking about what your metaverse should look like. And whether it's virtual reality or not, there's other technology platforms. It's just a matter of taking the next step out of 2D websites. When we used to only be brick and mortar, then we went to websites, and now we're going to metaverses, and we're going to virtual worlds. And the virtual can be virtual reality, or it can be AR, augmented reality, which means that someone would stand in their house and the store would build around them or something, but they could still be in their room. So virtual reality is immersive. Everything disappears. You're in your room. You're in a store. You're in there experiencing the whole thing. Augmented reality means that the store builds around you or the environment, but you still see your stuff. So it's like bringing that into your environment in augmented reality. So you'll see AR from now on. When you see AR, you'll know what that means. That's augmented reality. When you see VR, virtual reality, you'll know that's an immersive experience where everything around you disappears and you live in the immersive experience that you're in. That's AR versus VR. And the headsets do both. They're both going to Apple. When I say both right now, the biggest names you hear are Meta and Apple. They are both going to do both things. And hopefully they'll both do the same things, because I would hate one thing being confined to only one headset. That's the biggest concern, is that you build in one place and you can't get it over there. I want everything to be on all of it, and then you choose which headset's the most comfortable, for you.
So now when it's come to the real estate, earlier you said that it was very affordable. How does that look like right now?
When you say real estate, in the VR real estate?
Yes, exactly.
Affordable.
Like when you're buying it, having a store or something.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that so there's these bigger real estate companies that the really large companies are going to, called like Sandbox and Decentraland, and they're to buy space. It's literally buying space on a server. If you want to think about it in real terms, you're buying a server, you're buying space, and you're buying the ability for people to connect to that location, right? Whether it's in the cloud or it's a physical server in somebody's office building. And when these larger companies that really hold your hand and help you build and give you something that they know is going to be a big draw for people, they charge more money. So you have Decentraland, which was upwards in the thousands. I mean, people are spending thousands and millions of dollars on getting their space now, even if they're not planning on being done building for 10 years. They're buying their space, so to say, in the front of the line. It's like buying 3-letter domains. I don't know if that means, to anything to anybody, but it used to be very, you can't buy a 2-letter .com address anymore. That's been years. Yep. You can't buy my initials AM. That's been gone since like 1982, right? I don't even think I'm exaggerating. So they're buying primo space right now in these big, big companies. So what has happened with the group that I'm with is they thought, like I did, they wanted to be able to offer users who have smaller businesses and there's larger businesses in there, but at a more affordable price. So instead of $3,000-$4,000 to even think about building your space, they're giving you a pre-built space that you can fill with your things, with templates. They're pre-built templates that eventually will change and you'll be able to bring your own in. But right now, everything's pre-built and you just fill in the places, which I love. Like I said, I don't have to think from scratch. I just go in and I fill in what I want by choosing the background that I want that they've given me. And it's a couple $100s. It's not, it's affordable. It's easy to use. They've designed it to be easy to use. That's the whole point of this company.
That a one-time fee, or we're talking about a couple $100 a month?
No. It's a one-time fee. You buy the store. They have subscription rates because you do want to be able to have this website where you can change out photos or change out graphics or change out access. And it's $8 a month. I tell people, when you buy a website for your commerce, an e-commerce website, you're paying $30, $40 a month to have an e-commerce website. This is $8 a month. because they want everybody to use it, which is why I gravitated towards them. They want everybody to do it. And that's how I am. And I loved it. And I've got several stores in there all over the city. There's a giant city that's always around. And you don't even have to know where anything is. You can go in and explore. And there's all these ready-built stores and ready-built apartments. People buy apartments in there so they can get back to where they remembered they liked being, There are districts, there are groups of people that have gravitated towards these districts of liked, things they have in common, There's an art district, and there is a doggy district, and there is a hippie hollow from the 70s for people to get together. There's a sci-fi district. There's, and then I have the chamber everywhere, because to me, it's not limited to a district. I have chamber offices everywhere so that, so people, I can be part of all the districts. So everybody kind of went in and found their niche, more than one, because you can buy apartments in the buildings with the stores. So you can be in their building. And you can, you go back and then you have a location and you can see all the other people that have the same type of interest as you when you're in a specific district. And then they've added games and they've added attractions. And sometimes you just want an apartment near an attraction. Not to say that later when you have 1 billion people, someone's going to want that attraction and you can rent that apartment out to them, like an Airbnb. Like that's eventually how this is going to work. All over the apps, not just this one, but this one's doing it now.
So now you also have affirmative consent project. What is that about?
Oh, the affirmative consent? Is that
Yes, affirmative consent project.
Yeah, it's affirmative consent, and it is along the lines of the Me Too movement and the I'm drawing a blank on It's part of the Me Too movement. So a couple of years ago, actually, when President Obama was in office, they had written, they took seriously campus assault. And again, I'm very big in women safety and women being able to do what they want to do safely, And so I saw a law being written in California that had to do with campus assault, and it's across all genders. It's not only women. It's just that I gravitate towards these issues. And for a long time, and even up to now, because it's taken a couple steps backwards with a few administrations since President Obama, and now it's coming back again. It was actually Vice President Biden's initiative, and called It's on Us. And so I saw these laws being written, and they were slowly going state by state by state. And they were able to start these programs at orientation in college to teach all the students about respect. It's really about respect. It's consent and it's respect. And the term that was used in the legal sense and the statutes and the law is affirmative consent. So I called my nonprofit, which still exists, the Affirmative Consent Project. And we put together a learning packet that could help the faculty talk about this topic, and then also help the part of what was being done in the legislation, which was tied to Title IX, which was school safety and equality. They would also be able to address the issues as they came up. And there's accusations. And sometimes the accusations are based in fact, sometimes they're not. It's not, but you have to hear it all out and not think that everything is not factual. And the way it was coming along was people were educating themselves, educating their faculty and educating administration and educating students, at the college level, at the older adult ed level, at the high school level. Canada has affirmative consent standards starting in 3rd grade that just is blanket across the entire country. The United States is different. It has to go state by state. So anyway, I started a nonprofit. We started going out and talking to faculties and orientations, and it's still there. It's just that the law itself and the statutes and the requirements have taken a few steps back for a few years, and they're coming back again. So I've always left it knowing that it was gonna come stronger. And to turn it around back again in virtual reality, it's no different which is, again, another hill to climb of people understanding when I talk to them, trying to get people interested in this topic to put on the headset, because you find these issues online as well in VR, especially since, the first thing someone will say, well, it's not real because you're not really there. And you actually are really there. The term about assault, if I can use that word, I don't want to get too deep in here, is that the freeze response is real. I can guarantee you it's real, and we need to be paying attention. And you'll see these virtual reality companies are coming out with policies. They are. They're coming out with reporting, and they're coming out with safety procedures, and they're coming out with ways to make you feel comfortable and not worried about harassment. They're putting in their own policies internationally, and I love seeing that. And that's where the Affirmative Consent Project came from.
This is amazing. So now with Metaverse Chamber of Commerce, how can someone join that? And do they need to know about how does the reality behind it, the life behind it all work, or anything like that?
They actually don't. I've had, in a couple of expos that I've had, all I need is a website. You can join for $15 a year at metaversechamber.io. And you just need to give me your website and I'll make something for you. I'll make a door to your website. If you want to come in and build a store or build a metaverse about it, you don't even have to own a store. You can build a metaverse in there and attach it to, say, your apartment, or attach it to another business, or I'll give you a door to a metaverse that's not a storefront. It's just an $8 a month location where you can still put all your pictures and videos and have really great templates to use. And then I can add you to whatever it is that we do on the website and in VR. And when you're ready, which is what the books are about, the ebooks, you'll come in because you'll understand what it is, and you're not starting at zero. You're not at the bottom of the hill like I always am. I'm trying to get everybody, at least halfway up the hill. But you don't have to have any sort of virtual reality presence. I'm hoping it will encourage you to do it. Exactly. And again, it doesn't have to be virtual reality. It can be any type of metaverse, mobile, web, whatever you want. So there's no limitation.
And you said that it's $15 per year to join the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that's just affordable to everybody. And but it's all there for people to just get ready to, when it's time.
But you guide, once they join the Chamber of Commerce, you kind of guide them on how to.
Oh yeah,
on how to do everything.
I'll train everybody on everything. Yeah, and that's what the ebook's for. And the ebook's at metaversecourse.io. And that's a really good primer, I think. I wrote it. And I just today finished an accompanying video where I take you through the process of pairing your headset with your phone app so that you can get in and create an avatar and learn how to look at the apps and things. And I'm going to do more videos like that.
Oh, they need to buy the headset, right?
In order to get in, yeah. You need to buy the headset. Now, having said that, 2 years from now, maybe, year and a half, 2 years, you will probably be able to use all these apps on your phone. They're all going to different platforms. So you'll be able to, it's like Second Life. And people, I think, compare Second Life to virtual reality in the wrong way, because Second Life was always a 2D platform and it was always a social platform. And people could talk about their businesses, but most of the transactions in there had to do with making a better experience for your Second Life character or your Second Life experience. Virtual reality, to me, and the type that I'm building, is about helping you with both. So what you do, you transact for the real world in virtual reality. And when you take the headset off, you benefit from whatever it was that you did in there. And Second Life is a great way to have developed what you might want to do for virtual reality. So I don't think it's a fair comparison when you talk, and it's been around 20 years. It's lasted a very long time, but it never broke out of the 2D model. But it was it still is. There's still people in there. And I had a great time in there. We used to have the woman that I was talking about, Eliza, she started a company in there 10 years ago and she invited me, and she's in Alaska and I'm in Florida and her other partner's in Minneapolis. The other partner, who's the digital guy, is in the UK, and we'd meet around this table, on the on our laptop screen. Today, we can all put on a headset, and I know they all have them. We haven't done this though, but I know they all do because I see them come up in my friends list. We can all go into a virtual table now and go into Horizon workrooms and sit around a table again, but really be talking to each other, not at the screen. I can turn and talk to them, and you really, really do feel like you're talking to the person. You really do.
Really cool.
And they'll be all over the world.
Exactly. And I think that in the next few years, that will go a lot bigger, especially when Apple decided to get into it. So
yes.
That's when there's something behind it.
That's a big deal that they're doing that. And the best thing I told everybody, my favorite, I watched the whole presentation because I wanted to see what they were going to do because they keep everything under wraps all the time. And I wasn't digging that deeply into, spoilers or anything like that, or leaked information. And the word that I always look for is Unity. So Unity is the program that that is the most popular program for virtual reality websites and experiences. And developers and creators use Unity to build their experience. And then they give it to, and then we use what they've built to make, if we can't, I'm not the greatest graphic designer or Unity builder. And then I can use their coding to create my experience. And the last thing that Apple said in their presentation is, we're proud to announce that we are compatible with Unity. And that's all I was waiting for, because that means that these programs that you use in that Meta headset will be brought into the Apple headset. That's what you're looking for. That's what makes everything compatible.
So how do people join Metaverse of Commerce?
If you go to the website, there's a join, there's an application there, and you can just join. You just fill it out. And
and you get back to them?
Yes. You get added to the email list, and I keep I do a regular email to tell everybody what's going on and what our next thing is. I do these expos. The one that I have now is called Spring into Summer, and it's our fourth, believe it or not, it's my fourth business expo in the last year and a half, because that's how long the chamber's been around in this form. And I'm trying to do them every 2 or 3 months. And then the best thing about this program that I use is that it not only lets me advertise, I advertise on the website, but it lets me advertise these events on the Meta headset as part of the Facebook promotional tools. You can't do that with every app. This app that I use happens to do this. And so when anybody who has a headset is looking at their Oculus app or their Meta headset app, my events come, the chamber events come up
Cool.
to everybody, whether they're in the app or not. They'll see it, and it just pings you to download it, and it's free to use. Anybody can come in and look around. You don't have to do anything in there. You don't have to spend money. Only if you want to create or set up a solid area for yourself. Otherwise, you can just go around and meet everybody and visit everything 24 hours a day. You can go around. And because everybody's all over the world, there's always people from somewhere. I know when I have to meet my friend from, like I said, Sweden or the UK, I do the calculation in my head about what time it is. And we're always doing that. We're always putting up times in different time zones. So everybody knows what time things are going on, because we're all over the world.
So what advice do you have for individuals who are interested in getting involved in technology industry, making a positive impact with their work, especially when we're talking about Metaverse, virtual reality life?
Well, the first thing you have to do is get a headset. They're pretty affordable. The Meta 3 is coming out in the fourth quarter, I think, like late fall or something. Hopefully it's in the early fall, but it's their newest headset. They're making it affordable. Apple, I think, is coming out the next year. It's a little bit more expensive. I think that's going to even itself out eventually, but it's an Apple product. So for $300, $400, you get yourself a headset. You can also buy them secondhand. What I wouldn't do is buy anything by Quest that's less than a Quest 2. The Quest 1 is completely being phased out. So you would start with the Quest 2, which you can buy refurbished now on eBay or Amazon. And the Quest 3 is coming out. There's also a Quest Pro, which is a developer model. It's a little bit more advanced, a little bit more money. It also has a little bit more functionality, but they're taking a lot of that and putting it in the Quest 3 that's coming out later this year. So you get a headset and you come in. It's very easy to use. It's not intimidating. It's really easy. You know, I went in, I used to just, in the beginning, before all these other apps came out where you could build, I just rode roller coasters. I'd open up my YouTube video, the 360 YouTube app, and I would just find roller coasters. And I would ride roller coasters all the time. And
oh my goodness.
He's in there. Yeah, there's all kinds of things to do.
Before I let you go today, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I hope that this wasn't too intimidating for anybody. And I just think it's the next thing. And you just have to keep going with it. And again, you never know what it's going to end up being. But I know that it's headed in this direction. And I really hope people use it. Because like I said, if you don't use it, it doesn't stick around in advance. Also, I'm not afraid of the advancement. I will say that. I'm not afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of virtual reality. I think that it's a good thing, and it's bringing people closer together, and it's helping us understand what the future is going to look like and how we can shape it. And I really do think that's a big, big part of it, because everybody can get together in a, you know, you and I are on a screen right now when we could be standing in front of each other in our separate areas, wherever you are and wherever I am. We could be standing in the same room. And to me, that feels real.
That's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much, Alison, for giving me the chance to talk to you, because that covered a lot of things, a lot of understanding, because I think a lot of people don't understand what is it all about. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't invest on it as well.
Yes.
So I think
it's intimidating. That's why I wrote the book. Like, it's easy. You just envision it like the websites. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And I think that people like you going out and let people know that, hey, this can be good for your business. This can be a great way to promote also, because there's other people doing it. And I think it's a start. It's a start.
Yes.
Because we need to start somewhere to get somewhere.
Yes. Yes. Eventually a headset will be sunglasses. Or glasses. You'll see that. And, we're headed there. We're getting there.
Exactly.
Got to start somewhere. Remember, computers were gigantic, and you had to get these whole mainframes, which I told you I started with. And now, you know, I carry this, and carry that. And mostly it's my phone. Like, most of the time, it's just this phone. Nobody would have thought that you could do that.
Who knew? Yeah. From having the first cell phone was so huge to having that small little things in our hands now. So it's changed a lot for the past years. 20, 30 years, a lot changed. Yes. And I think there's a lot more to come.
It's very fast considering how change had been for centuries. It's now running very, very fast. So,
thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.